Hello, my name is John Liu, Flow Ninja, and today I have a video. We want to build a flow to create an API to create and update flows in Power Automate. This is useful if you're doing migrations, if you're creating lots of workflows, say for SharePoint workflows, because now we're all doing this migration before November 1st. And it's useful in terms of general DevOps. If you wanted to do a deployment of flows between, say, dev and production through a DevOps pipeline, this is also very useful. So this is something that I've been doing for the last 2 years. I know in the community others may have been doing this, but I thought that there is this November deadline updating SharePoint workflows. There's a bit more urgency, and I decided to just sit down and record this video. So hope you enjoy and subscribe and like this video, and we'll get into it. To really start here, one of the many things that people ask me over the last 2 years is, John, what is the Flow API? How can I code the flow programmatically? I'm a developer or I'm a DevOps engineer. How can I code the flows directly? And if you Google, there is a Flow web API. So if you Google, you will see this Power Automate API, and you'll talk about this endpoint. This endpoint is essentially the CDS endpoint. So while you could deploy flows through CDS with this web API, it's limited to a subset of flows that are delivered through a solution. So you can't use this to, say, update or create my flows or team flows. And also there are several other methods that are really just not available here. You could use this if your flow is delivered through a managed solution, and then you use the CDS to update the solution. That is possible. So essentially all these is really just updating an entity within CDS. Okay, so that is one option. There's a second option, which is you can use the DevOps tools that Microsoft has been building. Yeah, so the Power Platform build task tools. And again, these tools package both Power Apps and Flow, so there is a benefit to use this for Power Apps, but again, delivers through the solution framework. So this might suit your needs to use the tooling from here. Traditionally, there has been issues with this. Not all the triggers work when they're in a solution. Sometimes there's trouble with connecting or reconnecting the connections for a flow. Also, if you want a bit more customization and say, oh, I want to connect to different sets, or if I want to copy one flow but deliver to multiple copies, this will not do it for you. So that's the second option. The third option, which I need to plug, is third option is within the tool that I've created, Power Studio, powerstudio.app. We do have a complete feature for migrating your flows. So in the migrate flow idea is that you will create a migration plan. A migration plan involves one or many flows. You can deploy them across environments or within the same environment. You can, and then for each flow, you can then say, okay, as I move environments, I want to switch the connection. So which connection object do I want to use? You don't even, like maybe in your dev it's connected as you, and then in maybe in dev it's connected as you, but in the prod environment you want to connect as another service account. So you can totally do that. You can also switch out any variables or even URLs within your flow. So as you do your copy, you can switch that out, change the name as well. And then you save the whole thing as a plan. So next time, if you want to redeploy, you just run the plan. So this will run very quickly in a couple of seconds. You will deploy a whole batch of flows, apply all the variables and URL replacements and connection replacements, and do that all in one go. So that's the third way. Now, today we're not talking about any of these three ways. We're going to talk about an additional way, and that is if you're trying to build your own. And ultimately, the the API is to reach all the flow functionality. That is an unsupported API. So this is pretty much the only way to get a supported scenario. And I'll explain as I go. So let me just start building as I go. So we're gonna come here, go into your flow environment, and go to instant flow. We're gonna go down and gonna create a HTTP request. So essentially, we're going to create an API. Okay, and I'll show you the idea real quick. Then we're going to do so Power Automate connector, which is actions like create flow. We're going to use that one. Now, if you never created this before, or if you're creating a new one, I do want to show you that you may be asked this dialog to set it up first time. And you refer to both first party and third party. The third party is the original API that's Azure based. The first party is a completely separate new API that the Power Platform uses. If you see this option, then choose first party. If you have existing ones that are on third party, they are probably fine for now. But if you see that option, choose first party. So we're gonna pick this current environment. We're gonna give it a name, new flow. And then here's another trick. In here in the HTTP request, we can hit this use sample payload. And we're gonna describe a simple JSON we're gonna send through. So it's gonna have a name. A flow name is a unique identifier for flow. It's actually, but anyway, let's just give it an empty string because we know it's a string. We'll need a definition. And the definition is an object, so let's just do that. It's actually quite a complex JSON object, so we'll just do a object. And then we also need a thing called connection references. We'll just call a connection, maybe we'll call references. That might be better. And references in an array. So just create an array like this. You could say this is an array of objects, kind of like this. Okay. Now, if you're not familiar with JSON schema, I do have a very popular blog post, thesis on parse JSON. So do check that out. This goes through the parse JSON. How do you provide a JSON in Flow so that Flow will create the JSON schema and then it will give you better intelligence within the flow. Okay, keep going. So we're gonna say okay to this. And then just quickly check. We have a flow name, that's a string. We have a definition, that's an object. And then we have an array, okay? And then down here, we're creating a flow. We're just gonna call a new flow for now. We need the definition, which will be this. And then we need the state. Let's just start it with stop so we don't automatically. You can, of course, if you're updating existing flow, you may want them to be started right away. And also for the connections, we're going to do a bit. We're just going to toggle into the advanced mode and then provide the whole array. Okay. And then let's wrap this up, this web service. Do the response action. By the way, request and response are both premium actions, so you will need a premium license. Now for the response, let's just take the output of the create flow. Okay, so we're gonna go down and find body. So that's the output of this body. We're just gonna copy that into here. Our own flow API. Okay, so that will save. And now before we continue further, let's do a second new flow. So we're gonna save this. And when it saves, it's gonna give us this URL which we want to copy. And then let's go and make a new flow. So in here, I want to demonstrate how you can call that API. So we're gonna use Power Automate. And we're actually gonna use it to get a flow. We're gonna read a flow definition, read from preview. And in fact, to be adventurous, we'll read that flow that we just written. So that one's called our own flow API. So this is no smoke and mirrors. This is like live demo. Get a flow. Get a Oh, where the test out flow API. Let's do that. So we're gonna build this in kind of over time. So let's do this bit first. And I want to show you a few things about what we're seeing in this get flow. Okay. So it runs and it runs successfully, and then we need to pull out this value or this output. In the Flow Designer, in the new experience, you may see this show raw outputs. I really like this. Otherwise, you could kind of see some of the pieces that we'll need. We will need the flow definition, which is here. We'll also need the connection references, which is here. See this? So we're gonna need those two. Now, let me pull this whole JSON. So I'm gonna show raw output, which is gonna give me this, the entire JSON of this body. So copy that. To make this really, really simple to understand, a flow is the definition, that's the boxes that we're all drawing, which is this, plus the connections, that's the credentials that has been saved, and that actually connects to the systems. So to recreate a flow of the entire JSON, all we need is the definition and the connection references. And you can see the connection references is an array. So it's actually an array that starts like this. Okay, so if you're thinking to deploy from, say, a dev to a prod environment, then you should go to the prod environment first and create the connections that you're gonna need. And then what you really need is this connection name, which has got this unique GUID to it. This display name and then this API ID, those are always the same. But the connection name is going to be unique. For you to say, create a flow here and then switch the connection in the destination, you want to know the new GUID. Okay, so the best way to do that is you just manually go and create a flow in the production environment with the connections that you want, and then copy out this connection reference. And then the flow definition itself is really just this big JSON. This is actually the Azure Logic Apps workflow definition template. So there is also a display name. So the name of the flow. And that's not in the definition. So we did miss something in our API. Let's quickly fix that. So we do need in here. Let's just copy this bit. Sorry about that. So we're gonna need a display name. Okay, so that's gonna be the name of our flow. In fact, let's come here and instead of calling a new flow, we'll call it display name. Let's do that. Then let's come back here. And now we're gonna edit this. And there are two parts, remember. We need the definition, which I'll just pull out using a compose to split that out. So that is the definition, flow definition. Let's rename that. And then we also need a connection reference. Okay, and then finally we can call HTTP. That's also a premium action. We're going to call it a post action. What else do we need? Okay, and then here we need a JSON, right? We need the flow name, which we're not using at the moment, so let's just leave it blank. We need a display name, and that's a new name. So a display name, so this is our new flow, I think. And then we need the definition, which is a JSON, which is that. And then finally, we will need the references, which is an array, which is that. Okay, fingers crossed. Let's do it. This is all live. I might be doing something. Hopefully, didn't make any mistakes. Oops, why is it unhappy? The inputs of type open API connect. The API operation does not allow writing value of display name. Okay, this is okay. Okay, so look like we should not provide the display name. Let's quickly tweak that. Sorry about that. So it's complaining about this display name being a read only, so maybe it only wants the connection name and the ID. We fix arrays using the select action. Okay. So do references. And then we're gonna need so we need the connection name and then we need the ID. We don't want the display name. So connection name over here. And then the value really is just item dot connection name. I'm gonna do that. Double check. Yeah, and then ID. And that's gonna be the expression item dot ID. Okay, and then let's just rename that as well. So we're not going to use this compose references. It's got a display name that it doesn't want, so we're just going to do the output here, which is select reference. Oops, it went the wrong place. Well, actually, one more thing. By default, the HTTP does 4 retries. We don't want that at all. We never want this to retry. So the retry policy default is 4 times. We don't want that. We just want the no retry. Okay, so you really don't want to accidentally create 4 flows. Just do 1. And you see this flow runs successfully. If I pop over here, and you'll see this flow. It's run successfully. It's created the flow. And then if I look at the output from this, it will be the body. See, this is the body from that new flow. In fact, if I go over here now, you will see our new flow was created. See, this new flow is created. It's disabled by default because we make it so. But if you go inside, you will see that it has the same definitions. It has the connections already set up, ready to go. This flow is ready to go. You could just turn it on and start running. Okay, so it's the same copy. It will have a different URL because it's a different flow. But yeah, what else? Let me show you some more. So in here, right, we send the so this JSON. So here I have Postman. Imagine I put my body here. It's gonna be raw. It's gonna be JSON. and then we'll paste the whole. And just to show you what we're sending, that's the flow name, which we haven't passed, a display name, the definition. So maybe we make that a 2. Let's make it a different name. The definition itself, let's collapse that. And then the references, which is that array. Okay. And then if we paste, so that's the URL that was made earlier. If we paste that, and then if we send, you'll see again, it's gone through and created a flow. So if I come back and then I go to flows, you'll see it's created a new flow. Okay, so what I want to really show there is we created as a web service so that it can be called from your DevOps pipeline. Okay, so within your DevOps pipeline, imagine you commit and then you decide to release a set of 10 flows. Then these flows run this DevOps pipeline, and each one called this API flow that we just created, this request service, and that will use the connector to update. Now you say, John, I thought you're going to talk about, a real API. Well, a real API is actually not supported, but the flow management connector is. So this is actually the safest way for us to build. And looking at as they change from third-party to first-party APIs. So there are APIs that will change in the back. So by using the connectors, you are building in, you're kind of piggybacking what is a supported connector to build an API on top of it, and then you can use that as part of your DevOps pipeline. What it gives you also is a lot of flexibility. You can use it to decide who you want to share this flow with, and those are actions that you can add within flow. You can also decide to change environments or have different sets of connection. So imagine in your DevOps pipeline, you have a JSON array of, say, different SharePoint or Exchange connection references that you can use. So as you are calling this API that we've built, you can pick which connection you're gonna use. Okay. One more bit. I did wanted to build this. So far we've done the create. Let's quickly modify this so we can do an update. And we're just gonna say it like this. We're gonna say there's a condition if the flow name, which is provided, is blank, then we want to create. Otherwise, we actually want to update. Where is update flow? Here. Okay, so just very quickly picking the same options. Preview. So in here, we're actually gonna update a flow. So we're gonna go down to custom value. We're gonna pick the flow name, which is the GUID. The display name is the same. We're gonna bring that in. The definition is the definition here. The flow state is gonna maintain whether it's currently started or stopped. Probably the best way is to do a read. So before you do the update, get that flow, and then copy that. Actually, let me do that one more time. Get the flow. So in all my examples, I select the environment. You can actually also make the environment a variable. So you can actually provide the environment that you are going to deploy to, as a parameter to your API. So this is something that you can extend. I'm giving you lots of ideas on how you can extend this. But yeah, select the thing. We're gonna use a flow name, and then in here, if you wanted to maintain whatever it was before, then use the custom value, and then we can use the flow state from this earlier one. Okay, so if it's already off, we want it to be off. If it's on already, we want it to be turned on. So do it like this. Okay, so this is purely the update path. If we have a flow name, and again, and also with the references here, you could use either the references as passing, or you can even use the existing one. So that's completely up to you. If you use the existing one, there's a possibility that if your new flow has additional references, then it's not going to work. So yeah, just kind of test that through. So we're going to take the one that's passed in, and then let's combine these two outputs. So we're going to do a compose here. And we're going to do this compose. So let's go body. And we actually want the output of either the create or the update. So this is going to be a funny expression. Let's go coalesce. And we want the output of the body from create flow, or the body from update flow. Okay, so let's just double check that. Create flow output or the update flow output. Very good. And then let's delete that. Then just put this body. Okay, so one or the other will be, the path will be taken. And if one is null, then the coalesce will take the other one. Okay, so just a quick way to merge results from either side. Now let's do one more thing. So if I say go to my Postman, and let's just quickly look at the output. So the output says that it's created my flow. So this is the flow. This is the ID of the new flow. Okay, so we're gonna take that name. We're gonna put that name in here. And we're gonna say this is our flow modified. We're gonna change its name. Well, let's also change this definition. Now, tweaking definition is always tricky, so just be super careful. Let's do something that's completely kind of low risk. We're gonna just response. Hey, we're gonna change the name of that object right at the end. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Fingers crossed. Everything is raw, so if you see a bug, it's a real bug. We'll see. So this one, because we're providing a flow name, it should be doing an update to that flow, and then it's gonna return, and you'll see that hey, the name is now saying modify. That's good. So let's go and have a look at this new flow. Is it this one? No, let's just go over here and have a look. So you see that flow 2 has now become our new flow modified. And if you go in here and edit, we change one of the actions name. See, we changed the response to response hey. Okay, so I modified the definition in a way that's not gonna damage the flow. So but just to show you, so now what we've done is we've built an API that we can use to create and also update our flow definitions. You should hook this into your DevOps pipeline and then send your flow back. So I want to share 2 more links. So this I'm going to write this all up in a blog post, but I want to share John Liu VSTS. This I wrote this blog post 2 years ago, um, about how we can use the flow management connectors to read all our flows and then save them into DevOps. Okay, so this is one of the early Ninja hacks, Flow Ninja hacks. So yeah, list all my flows and then use VSTS REST to commit and send the flow definition into VSTS, so Azure DevOps. You can also do this with GitHub. So if you want to save your definition into GitHub, and then on the other side, so when I wrote this blog post, I kind of reply in the comments how you can do the other way going back, but I never really sat down and create this follow up. So I guess that's what this video is about. So this gives us a way to say when we want to release a build, so you trigger a release, then for each of these definition files, and you also want to save the connection references. So the definition plus the connection references, send that to this API that we've created, and that will go and either create the flow if it doesn't exist, or you will go and update the flow based on the flow name. The flow name being the GUID of the flow. So the flow name is this part. That's the flow name. Okay, it's also in here. Oh, it's not here. But yeah, if you're editing a flow, you'll see it. That's the flow name. Okay, that's unique to this flow. Okay, and that's the environment name. But by the way, if you wanted to add an additional parameter for environments and then be able to switch which environment you want to go to, that's the environment. Okay, so this is the ultimate way to create an API. It's super flexible. You can use it, and I think for many of us that are working on helping companies to migrate SharePoint Designer workflows into Power Automate, this is gonna be a real lifesaver for managing and help you maintain flows. So yeah, check it out. So my recommendations is the web API via the CDS, probably not the best place to do it. If you're building a flow that goes with a Power App, then do it via solutions is quite a good way. If you are not willing to write all these APIs and so on, you just want a click experience, then buy Flow Studio. It's $20 a month. You otherwise follow this example to build your own APIs and then do a invoke REST method from PowerShell, or do a fetch request from JavaScript Node.js to basically send the JSON into this API that you've created. Now, if you really don't want to have an open API, you can also create the flow as a webhook. So you can actually make it so that when GitHub has a release, then it triggers a webhook, and then from the flow you go and read what the latest definition is from GitHub. So you could do it reactively, kind of like this is just a webhook, and then it goes into the GitHub to read the definition. So in that case, you build also a deployment mechanism, but not expose potentially a open API that you worry that other people might be able to access. Okay, so this video is already pretty long, but it's a very important topic. So I'm hoping to just push this out and not having to edit too much. But yeah, if you like this video and want to see more this kind of in-depth content, then do share this video and leave a comment below and tell me what you would like to see. And good luck converting all our Good luck converting all our SharePoint workflows to flows. It's a big mammoth job, and I kind of feel like this will really help many of the teams out here that are doing this task. So build one of these that will really help you. Good luck. Bye.